Okay, Facebook Live. Here we are again. Our Christian Minson at your service. Your catalyst for awakening and transformation. Waiting ever so patiently as people arrive. For those who are joining on in the recorded version of this, if you don't want to be here for the intro part, before we get into content, skip to about minute 4 or so. But people are joining on now. Welcome, Sydney. Welcome, Lisa. As you join, put your greetings in the box. Tell me where you're from. Tell me if you've been here before or if you're new. I guess put your name in, type your name, where you're from, and new if you're new. If you're not new, then I'll know that you've been here before. Suda, hey, good to see you. Doreen, Carolyn, Karen, welcome all. Got 10, 11 people coming. We got the subject of death versus rebirth. Real juicy topic today. Just found out 30 minutes ago that was my topic. So we'll see how good I do here. Partially kidding there. Partial truth is that I did just find out, though I had a list of all sorts of topics that I could speak on, and that got chosen at the last minute. So, but it's a powerful topic, one I've thought extensively on, one that's definitely relevant to people who come to Rythmia, and relevant, as you will see, to everyday life. See, people are joining on, but my my list is not increasing here, telling me nobody's sending me any, hey, here I am from St. Louis, Missouri, or from Australia, or from wherever you're from. So give me some feedback here. I want to see, of course, if you're driving, don't give me any feedback. Keep your eye on the road and just listen. But death versus rebirth, Kival, hey, so good to see you on. Friends from, sorry, I know where she's from, Finland. And Erin, hey Erin, welcome, welcome. Let's just trying to coax you all to converse with me, to give me something to do, something to talk about while I'm waiting. Always wait about 4 minutes to get started, just to give ourselves a chance to get on. I'll tell you what the weather's like. Weather's good. We are officially out of the rainy season as of yesterday. Mid-November is the end of rainy season. Last year it rained into mid-December, but the rain is sporadic. It's not like it comes every day of the week and gets less and less as we go on there. But now we're going to move into the warmer, drier, little bit of wind season. Tim, hey there, Tim. So if you're planning to come to Rythmia in the next 3 months, let's say 4 months, those are the conditions. You can expect more dry weather, a little bit more wind. It's a beautiful time to be here. It's always a beautiful time to be here in Costa Rica. Really count my lucky stars, especially when I talk to people from the United States who tell me how crazy things are out there. All right, everyone, let's see. So we got a good group. We're going to get started. So officially, welcome. My name is R. Christian Minson, Director of the Breathwork Program here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and I am your catalyst for awakening and transformation. I am a transformational breath facilitator, senior trainer in the Transformational Breath Foundation for the last 12 years. I was a former monk for 10 years of my life, studying esoteric yoga, the practice of deep meditation for the attainment of enlightenment or realization of God, what we could call a death and rebirth in the scope of this topic today. And that's what I'm talking about. Death and rebirth. I'm also a speaker and author. This book right back here, I contributed to Align, Expand, and Succeed. And so enough about me. That's why I'm here every week. I give the breathwork edition of our Facebook Lives. On Saturday, Jerry gives the I Got My Miracle, in which people express, we interview somebody who's been here all week, so you get a firsthand account of their experience. Sunday is Meg's, Chef Meg does something on the food and usually raw vegan stuff. And Monday, Dr. Jeff, our resident psychotherapist, does his piece. So we've always got something good going on in Facebook Lives. You can also join in later, see the recordings in the video tab of our Facebook page, Rythmia Facebook page, or in Rythmia's YouTube page. You can see the videos. Being the breathwork guy, I will make a public service announcement. We hold here at Rythmia breathwork weeks, meaning the whole week is dedicated to breathwork as the primary ceremony or primary medicine versus plant medicine. And the next one of those coming up is January. January is the first month of the year. January 20th, Reverend Michael Beckwith will be our guest that week. So it's going to be jam-packed full of great experience and information, as well as breath being our primary tool. So for those of you who, everybody who comes here, I poll at the end of the week because we have breathwork at the beginning of the week, breathwork at the end. And when we have the last experience, I ask people who felt like this experience was equally as powerful as plant medicine, and at least half the people raised their hand. Then I ask who thought your breathwork was even more powerful than your plant medicine experiences, and always 5 or 6 people raise their hand. So that's just to say that breathwork is on equal footing with plant medicine, and maybe in your case it might even be a better medicine for you. And for that reason, we've opened up the breathwork weeks. So please feel free to join on. And I see Rob Taylor's joined on since. Welcome, Rob. So let's get started. Our topic this week is death versus rebirth. And why are we talking about death versus rebirth? Probably, I've heard that our number one fear is actually public speaking. And I've gotten over that one because here I am talking to you all. But our second fear is death and dying, the unknown. There's so much fear around death because, culturally, we're not taught to really to interact with death. We're always putting it off. We're always avoiding it. We're never facing it as the reality it is in life. And fact is, death is a reality of life. You experience death and rebirth, especially if you come to Rythmia. You experience it with the plant medicine. You can experience it with the breath work. And what you experience and how elegantly you move to that experience can affect the rest of your life. Let me give you a story. There was a woman here. I've been here a year now. A woman came through with her husband, and she was really, ultra depressed and ultra hard on herself, or she really just loathed herself. Nothing good to say about herself, nothing, she just had this self-deprecating attitude. And one medicine ceremony, she went in and started to experience this death process. And the death process can look and sound pretty dramatic because people are wailing and screaming and thrashing around, and it's the last vestiges of the ego trying to hold on and get, while at the same time something's trying to rip that out of you and give you a new experience. And if you were a casual observer, you would probably say that you would be observing the worst thing that could be happening. It's like this person is dying, this person is in agony, this person is in pain. And that can be part of the death process, which we'll talk about how and why that is. But what happened when you finally die to yourself, die to your ego, die to your old ways of being, it opens the space for this rebirth, for new energy to come in and flow into your being. So in this particular case, the next day I was sitting with the couple, the man, the husband, and then the wife who had gone through this experience, and I'd heard it, and it was pretty crazy. But she got up to get some more food or something, and I was speaking with the husband, and he said, for all that she went through, this was the best thing that ever happened to her, because this morning, for the first time in literally 30 years, she said something nice about herself, that she had found in that rebirth a way to connect to loving herself again. And this was the new baby, the newly born aspect of her, which now needed nurturing and growing. So we can look at the death side of things, and it can look pretty grim. Or we can take a look at if we take a bigger picture view, step back and look at the whole of the experience, we see that sometimes we go into these deaths in order to achieve a different rebirth. And please feel free to comment. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. So this is kind of why we're doing this. It is a theme common to all of us. You're definitely going to experience it, or you definitely have the possibility of experiencing it through the ceremonies here at Rythmia. And I dare say in life offers you many deaths and rebirths. And why is that? Because what is death and rebirth anyway? But an ultra-natural process. We see death and rebirth everywhere, right? I mean, just look at the seasons of the environment. They go through a perpetual rebirth, springtime, summer, the fullness of life, and then a gradual decline and death in autumn, and finally into winter, where things become dormant and dead again until the next arising. Life operates on a cyclical fashion. They even say, some of the ancient philosophies say that even time operates in this cyclical fashion, that we go through different ages. We start in a dark age, we move into a higher age, up to a silver age, and then a golden age, and then we descend back down again from golden to silver to bronze, back to dark age again, before going back up again. So there's this, in that larger context, and that's like a 26,000 year cycle, is a rebirth and then a death, or whichever way I was going there. You see, even in women's moon cycles, right? This is a rebirth. An egg, a symbol of life, is born into the body and lives in hopes of being fertilized and creating new life. And if it doesn't, it's shed and dies, and a new one takes its place. So it's such a common part of life that we want to take note of that. So common that they say, you may have heard the phrase, only two things are certain in life: death and taxes, right? Death and taxes. Taxes, we can't do anything about, it seems. Death we can, actually, and that's why we're talking about this. Even though it seems like death is something that we can't do anything about. When we're talking about this process of death and rebirth, what we're really talking about is the experience around it. And the experience, the components of that experience are: one, grief at loss, and any loss that we experience in our lives will be accompanied by grief, and it's an important emotion that we need to allow the expression of. If we do not allow the expression of our grief, we hold it, and that grief festers and toxifies our emotional field. And then we perceive and act influenced by that toxicity. Death and rebirth requires, there's an ego battle that goes on in this process, because the ego has to let go of what's known, let go of the past, which is what's dying, and fully let go so that something new can come in. So there's a big component of ego comfort that goes on in the death versus rebirth. It's also an adjustment to what's new. So even if what you die to was horrible and what you're born into again, what's renewed in you is something wonderful, there's an adjustment period. There's you have habituated yourself to an old way of living, and now there's a new way that's being presented to you. And sometimes that takes a little bit of adjustment. But this death into rebirth ultimately is an experience of growth and evolution of your life. All right, so if you've heard me talk before, this, in my philosophy, the philosophies that I subscribe to and those that have come from my own experience, this is the whole meaning of life. Our continuous growth and evolution is the whole purpose of our being here. We're here to grow. We're here to evolve. We're here to leave better than we came, to leave the place better than it was when we got here. So these are really the components of death versus rebirth. Grief, ego battle, ego struggle, adjustment to newness, but ultimately growth and evolution is the ultimate result. Now finally somebody's saying hi. Aldi, yay, laugh out loud. What are you laughing at? What's rebirth? I'm curious. So rebirth is a coming into something new, Chris. So when we let go, think about the seasons. What is rebirth with regards to the seasons? Death is when the trees, all the leaves die, they fall off the trees, the flowers die, the plants are dormant. Some are dead completely. They've dropped seeds that will start anew. Others lie dormant in a semi-dead state, suspended animation until they reawaken in the spring. So rebirth is like spring. Rebirth is where new seeds germinate and start all over again. Rebirth is when the trees reactivate. And let's talk about, we're talking about these clues in nature. Perhaps one of the biggest clues of this cyclical nature of life and death and rebirth is your breath, right? Me being the breath guy, I'm always weaving the breath in there some way, shape, or form. So what I mean by this is that your breath is a perpetual cycle of death and rebirth. The exhales of death. You're letting go of a part of you. They're just particles that were in your lungs, but they came from your bloodstream. They came from elsewhere in your body, dumped into your lungs, and now you're exhaling it out. You're releasing. You're dying to that part of you. You're letting it go. The rebirth is the drawing in, the inhaling the new life, the possibility of newness that can happen. With each inhale, it's possible that your life could go in a completely different direction. Now, there's also force of habit. So we breathe thousands, 17,000 breaths a day and keep on the same track. So we could literally say we've died and been reborn 17,000 times. But if we're unconscious about that, if we're unaware of it, we just stay on the same track and it seems like we didn't make any progress. We really tune into the value of each breath that we take, each exhale, really letting go of something that that doesn't serve us, and each inhale, drawing in as much abundant new life and possibility as we can, we'll actually can see in a very short period of time how that can steer us in a different and more positive direction. And this, in a nutshell, is the whole science of breath work. This is how breath work works. We start working with the breath consciously, and it starts making that shift in the dynamic. Chris, I see. Thank you for the response. Appreciate the question, Chris. Andrew, I'm really enjoying this discussion. It's 5 a.m. in Australia. Feels like a rebirth right now. I love the humor, Andrew, and and the dedication for tuning in at 5 a.m. I won't ask if that's when you normally get up, but I bow to you just for for your fortitude there. And Australians, I do have to take my hat off to them. We've always got one here, at the very least, or a handful here at Rythmia each week. The things you have to go through to get here, it's about the longest flight from Australia, probably some of the most expense, and yet we see dedicated week after week people coming in from Australia, and it really just warms my heart. So go Raiders, Andrew. So we're talking about this. So the breath is this example of death and rebirth. And in fact, if you're familiar with the Christian scriptures, St. Paul, one of the disciples of Christ, I forget in what book and all that, somebody might be able to tell me, but he says in there, he says, "Verily, I die daily." And that's been confusing to a lot of people, but not if you truly understand meditation, or as an extension of that, the techniques of breath work, or the process of plant medicine and ceremony. That what St. Paul meant was that he had some form of technique of spiritual communion, which likely had an element of breath and an element of meditative awareness, that he was able to die, to separate from the physical consciousness and be able to dwell, reborn in spiritual consciousness, Christ consciousness. This is why Christ said, only by me can you come. He didn't mean that, me, Jesus, I'm the only savior on this planet. He meant by me, the Christ consciousness, the consciousness that we have to attain in order to be fully reborn in this life, to fully evolve and grow in, as we said, in this purpose of life. So St. Paul was saying, I die daily, which is, once again, this concept of death and rebirth. The more we get comfortable with that this is a natural cycle of life, the less fear we have about the ultimate death, or that final, what we feel is final phase of our existence. At least it's final for this physical form, right? That death is the finality of this physical form. And if we spent enough time dying and being reborn throughout our lives to recognize that we aren't actually attached to this physical form, that who we are is something beyond this form. And then when we reach that, that final threshold of releasing this body, that we can do though with relative ease and grace, that we can shed it like you take your clothes off at night before going to bed. You're not going to wear your dirty clothes to bed at night, so you take them off. When you get up in the morning, you put new, fresh clothes on, right? When we die, we shed the clothing of this body, and we go through a process of rebirth, coming back in as a new form, putting on new body clothing, so that we can activate once again in this world. Whether it's this world or some other world, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, this is a philosophy that plays into the death and rebirth cycle here. All right, now we're getting some eyeballs looking. I had a rebirth in my journey, but don't feel different. Is that normal? Interesting, Tammy. I'd like to hear more about that. what did you feel died, and what did you feel reborn to? And then, then I could maybe talk about why you don't feel any different. Lisa, how long does the initial rebirth last for someone new? Is it possible to get muddied by negativity after coming out of ceremony and return home? Work in progress always. Yes, and you pretty much answered your question. It's a work in progress always. Think of anything born, a newborn baby. If you don't feed that baby, or let's say, that's a little extreme. If you don't feed the baby, it's going to die. But let's say, so, you died to negativity, and this newborn baby now represents positivity in your life. But you keep yelling at that baby every day. You keep telling that baby it's worthless. But you expect that baby was born in the spirit of positivity and held all the potential of being positive, but its environment, it's being fed continuous affirmations to the contrary. So that newborn baby, even born into the full spirit of positivity, can start to display the characteristics of negativity that died in the previous life. So yes, it is possible that your rebirth can get muddied, and it's like a new sapling of a tree. You want to put a fence around it so rodents don't come and chew on it. You want to water it and give it enough sunshine. You have to care for this newborn. And that's part of the death and rebirth process, is recognizing that you need to care for this newborn entity. Celeste, nice to see you on. Give me some rainbows. Rob, Wendy, what are you laughing at, Wendy? That is 3:20 a.m. in Perth. That's amazing, Rob, that you're there, that you're on. And Tammy. All right, so Tammy's saying, I saw what looked like meteor within me inside, then me laying on my side and ash being blown off me, as I assumed that meant rebirth. And Lisa said, thank you, Dan. So Tammy, did rebirth a true, let's see, there can be many, what I'd say, many deaths and rebirths. So everything is holographic in nature. We can experience this death and rebirth like the death and rebirth of my fingernail cell, right? That doesn't necessarily affect the whole of me, but that's still going on. So in the course of medicine ceremonies, you can have a full death and rebirth, meaning the entirety of your human software gets erased and you get uploaded with new human software. That usually is pretty dramatic, and you definitely tend to feel those effects afterwards and let that affects you. You understand that something happened. With kind of what you're saying, could be little pieces of you die and are reborn all the time. What could, in this case, be, the meteor is a metaphor, right? So you've got to introspect a little bit about what this means for you. Sometimes something may die and not necessarily be born right away. It's like the farmer, the farming cycle. There's all these weeds in the field. Looks lush, but it's full of nothing, really. Farmer's got to go cut down all the weeds and plant the seeds. Then the field looks bare and barren for a number of months while the seeds start to germinate and the farmer keeps the field clean of those weeds. So there's this period of time where it seems like nothing's really happening, right? It almost could seem more barren because at least before there were weeds there and it looked like something was growing. But so sometimes there needs to be a gestation period. So what you've experienced may have been a clearing of some sort, and now you've opened the space for new energy to come into you and start operating in a positive way. So hopefully that gives you some insight into that, Tammy. So we want to, when we're talking about this whole concept of death and rebirth and how to really deal with it, right? I mentioned that there are 4 aspects to this, and the first aspect was grief. So we got to remember that even if the rebirth is better, even if we are moving into 100%, our life was shit before and now it's glorious after. Whenever we lose anything in our life, there's a natural response of grief. And it's so important to acknowledge and allow yourself the expression of that grief. So in a death and rebirth process, even though you're in a new place and you may be happy, you may find yourself crying and feeling a little bit melancholy and depressed for your old self. That's perfectly okay, or for this old habit, or for this old relationship that you got to let go of. It's perfectly normal and perfectly good for you to express that grief, to cry, to let it out. It's very harmful to you to hold that in or blow it off or pretend that it isn't there, which is pretty much how 99% of us do it these days, and it's not our fault because we're taught that. And society is constantly reinforcing to just get on with it, to let go of the past and move forward. And that's ultimately a good thing, but we have to understand that grief is a natural part of the process. So we also have to recognize that the ego holds on. The ego is very afraid of anything that's new. The whole mechanism of the ego is here to protect us. All right, so ego plays a very valuable role in our life. I feel like it's like the manager of a company. Keeps us going, it keeps us on task, gets us to places on time. It basically keeps us safe in a little box that it knows that it knows. All right, so this box is what the ego knows, and it's what the ego tries to keep you in. Anything outside of that box, which is the unknown, is very fearful to the ego. Even if there's joy and happiness and all that outside, and it's pain and suffering inside the box, if the ego knows pain and suffering, it's at least more comfortable with that than the potential of the joy and the peace that might be outside of the box. This is very important to understand because the ego often sabotages our efforts. You want to be happy, but the ego wants you to stay safe, right? Safety to the ego is in the zone of misery. And so it's saying, stay here in this misery because at least we're safe. While you're trying to break out of that misery and get into the zone of peace and happiness. So it requires you to be vigilant about the ego, understanding that this is how the ego operates, and that every growth, every rebirth is going to take a push. You're going to have to push the ego into, you ever been on a diving board and you're waiting in line behind somebody who just won't go, and then somebody finally pushes them, right? I don't advise that, but in the analogy, you push that person off the diving board, you're pushing your ego off the edge so it will finally move into unknown territory. The great thing about the ego is as soon as it's in unknown territory, it creates a new box. And now the unknown territory that it's been pushed into becomes the new norm, and that's how we grow, little by little. But the liability of that is now that's the box, right? And anything outside of that is now fearful or frightening to the ego. On that note, yes, honor every part of this process, even the uncomfortable parts. Thanks, Allie. Gord, greetings from Ontario, 2:30 p.m. here. Great. I'll be in Canada soon, by the way, for all you guys out there. I have entered what I'm considering an ascension period in my life where I feel big change needs to happen in my life, okay? Well, that's pretty long. I'm not happy with the present day person I've allowed myself to become. I'm viewing this change as rebirth, one of which I hope to obtain a level of spiritual enlightenment. How else do we do anyway? I've been researching, studying plant medicine obsessively for over a year. I feel it's calling to me. I suppose this just means I'm unsure, not ready. Sometimes we talk, but walking the walk requires action and not just speech. I know people who have been to Rythmia and claim it was life-altering and hope that my journey eventually brings you there. You pretty much, answered your own thread here, which is get to Rythmia. Everything you're saying is exactly why people come here. And I'm really, you already understand the whole thing. You're trying to make a change in your life. Your ego, I would say the fear there is your ego, what we were just talking about. And the push is going to be to get here to Rythmia. Often plant medicine is that push, because breathwork can be that push, and we'll talk about that. But plant medicine is often that push, because once you take that medicine, it doesn't let you go until the medicine is done, until you've processed it all. And that can be really good, especially for people who have a lot of control issues, that want to control everything in your life. And so you control it so much that you don't let yourself grow. Plant medicine forces you to let go of control, and then you can do it. The breath work can do the same thing. So don't feel like it's only plant medicine. Dan, love the ego. Yeah, bring peace inside the box. Bring the peace inside the box. Well, it's a little bit of a, in this metaphor, we don't bring the peace inside the box, but we expand the box, and now peace is inside the box, and your box is bigger. This is metaphorical of evolution. We live in a small box, now we live in a bigger box. We have a greater awareness of who we are and how we operate in this world. We grow again, we now have a bigger box. We have a greater understanding of who we are, how we interact, and what the world's all about. Continue on and on. Obviously, the goal is to blow the doors off the box and have an infinite capacity to understand life, and that's sort of the ideal. Celeste smiling at me. I smile back, and let's see, Gord. I've been trying meditation, as I understand this is a fundamental skill in obtaining enlightenment. I've been trouble focusing during guided meditations, as it's quite frustrating for me. I suppose everything that's worth never comes easy. And that's true. I would say breathwork may be a perfect segue to you into meditation, or it may ultimately be your replacement, because it offers many, if not all, the benefits of meditation, while not requiring you to be so still in your mind, still in your body. I mentioned in the beginning, I was a monk for 10 years of my life in a very formal meditative path, so I know exactly what it means to sit still in your body, try to keep your mind still, which is a very difficult task, for hours on end, and go in so that you can totally focus on your inner connection. Breath work is an amazing tool in that it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to all of this stuff, and can give you a lot of hope and energy to keep trying, whereas meditation sometimes leaves you out in the cold. It's all for the good. You just need to commit to daily practice of some kind of communion type of activity, but sometimes you'd really like to get some results and just feel like you're on the right path. And I would say if you can keep meditating, it's great. Keep doing it. You're on the right path, but breathwork may be the thing for you, and of course plant medicine maybe. I'm wondering, once I have been able to achieve deep meditation, is it able to experience ego death in the process? Yes, you will get better at that awareness. And that's part of all this. By everything we're talking about, you can become aware of. Everything we talk about is happening on a daily basis to you anyway, in mini deaths and rebirths, and then when you have your big deaths and rebirths, a loss of a family member, a loss of a job, or anything like this that causes you to have to reinvent yourself. And so as we become more aware of it, we can actually experience it as it's going through, and we can actually modify our experience, so we can stay more in the positive zone, more focus on the fact that this is a growth and evolution experience versus focus on the grief, focus on the ego's pain, focus on having to adjust to something new. And as Ali said, Rythmia will definitely catapult you. Yes, Childiz Hart, thank you. Nice to see you here recently. Come back again soon. Gina, so isn't a 14-day retreat recommended for first timers? Well, if you could come here for 14 days, it's nice to have that much space. I mean, if you come for a month, that'd be great to have that much space. And we actually got a guy here who's now in his 5th consecutive week, and I think about 7th or 8th week total. But you can get it done in a week. That's why there's a week program. It is, you know, we are what we lovingly refer to as a soul factory. We are bringing you in scared, lost, confused, separated from your soul, and you go back, merge with your soul, healed in your heart, knowing fully who you are and what your place is in this world, and going and making things happen. Now, some people appreciate a longer period of time to do this. Some people just don't have that time and got to get it done in a week. So there's options there. What was ego before it was named? I consider ego to be the part of God that we understand, and God, that which we call God or source or whatever, is the part of God or experience that we don't understand. So ego before it was named was just the part of us that we were aware of. The part of experience that we're aware of is ego. The part of experience that we're not aware of is God. And though we can begin to keep expanding our ego till ego becomes God, and God and us are essentially one. You know, if you don't like the word God, substitute with universe or source or whatever, but there is this idea of expanding our consciousness to include a greater unified consciousness. I just started with breath work and I ended up falling asleep. What am I doing wrong? I'm working on making it to Rythmia. I wanted to try doing some small things, breath work till then. What you might not be doing anything wrong. What you may be doing wrong is that you're not getting enough sleep at night. How many hours of sleep do you get? And if you assess that you're not getting enough, breath work is basically just giving you what you need, which is sleep. So let yourself do it and let yourself sleep. If you don't want to sleep during your breath work though, you can redouble your pace. I mean, double your pace. So if you're, then you could go. This tends to keep your mind focused on the breathing and keeps you more alert. Also, I might recommend that you try to plug into a group class in your area or find a facilitator, give you a couple individual sessions. Having somebody there present with you to guide you along the way will help you to improve your practice and not fall asleep. The other thing you might be doing is actually not falling asleep, but checking out, meaning you breathe until you actually slow down the breath so much that you stop breathing. Then the soul, the spirit, disassociates from the body temporarily. You are no longer in the physical. You are dwelling in a different plane of reality. But oftentimes that plane is it's dark, it's comfortable, you don't sense a lot in there, and so when you come back, it feels like you were sleeping. So that could be going on too. Andrea Berry joined, and Tom, great to see you. Andrea from Canada, Vancouver area. Wonderful to see you on. Gord, I need to spend time with the amazing staff at Rythmia, and I need Mother Ayahuasca to shake me to my core, or so it seems. That's right, so get your ass over here. Vladka, great, telling people to join on. Dan, could you define the soul, please? So I kind of did, basically. Ego, ego is that which we know, soul is that which we don't know. Another way that I might define soul is our individualized expression of the divine spirit. If you think of the totality of all the creator, so to speak, the universal energy, the unified field, whatever it is, breaks into multi-billion pieces, and each of those pieces is a soul. Each of those pieces, becomes us as an individualized expression of that oneness. So our soul is like a hologram, so a hologram is a picture. Like if this Rythmia sign was a hologram, I could break it into 4 pieces, and it would not be Rythmia now in 4 pieces. I'd have 4 distinct full Rythmia logos in each of those pieces. That's how a hologram works. So our soul is like a hologram. Our soul is a piece of God, a piece of the universal reality. And yet within that piece is the entirety of the universal reality. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what the soul is. Good questions this week. Ali, 1 week was amazing for me. Look forward to coming back. I got my miracle in 7 days. Yeah, so that's in response to, don't people need 2 weeks here? Andrea Berry, hello from Ontario. Ontario, I thought you were in Vancouver, Andrea, but great to see you. I'll be in Ottawa for 1 day if you're around. Rythmia has sent me on a beautiful ascension path. I experienced my ego death the first ceremony. Congrats, so excited for you. Awesome, thanks. Angel, hello, visiting Costa Rica in a few days. That's how I found you. Now I'm having to wean off pain meds, but I'm doing it. Perfect. Keep that going. Get off them, and 30 days after you're fully off, you are medically qualified to be here. What's a good guided meditation? What is a good guided meditation? I don't know right off. I generally don't do guided meditations. I think the best guided meditation to me, to take a phrase, an affirmation of some positive thing in your life, like, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the soul, eternal blessedness. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the soul, eternal blessedness. And you repeat it so that your mind spins on that, but you repeat it more with feeling. You really attempt to feel yourself let go of the body, to let go of the mind, and to feel yourself as soul, as this expanded reality. And to me, I'd recommend that as your guided meditation. 5 to 7 minutes of restlessness at night. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Delilah, if you want to explain further. Gord, thanks, Andrea. Phil has been calling me as well. Okay, talk. Delilah, oh my God, yes. I feel like I drew my last breath at one point. Andrea, feel free to call me. It's been wild. Yeah, so crosstalk here, great. I'm glad people are making connections, and I really appreciate people who've been to Rythmia reaching out to those who haven't. If and that's part of this. If you've got any questions, of course you're asking me, but you can certainly, as you're doing here, those of you who have been here, I love that you're reaching out to those who have expressed their interest in Rythmia. That's one of the best ways to really just start a personal conversation and see. There's some reason you just got connected, and I'd follow that rabbit hole. Gina, I'm not scared or lost. I have sat with Aya many times over the last couple of years. I'm simply being called to meet Dr. Iboga. Your thoughts? One, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't say the value of one over the other. I would say that the program here at Rythmia is more than just the plant medicine itself. It's the medicine, it's the wisdom, it's the connection. Perhaps not a very small part of it is the people here, including myself, but we have a huge staff of open-hearted folks that really shape the quality of your experience here, if you will. You can go do ayahuasca in the jungle. You can do it in somebody's living room. You're not going to get the same experience as you get here because you've got infinite support, infinite comfort, infinite medical security. So all that is taken care of here, and it tweaks your experience. If you're in a fearful state, if you're unsure of your environment or unsure of the person that's going to serve you, or you're out in the middle of nowhere, so what are they going to do to you once you're out of your mind? That's going to come through. That's going to come through in your experience, and usually it leads to darker experiences. So that's my thoughts. You can choose to do, all medicines I feel are valuable if done in the right context. Andrea, much love. Christine, Ali, Andrea, miss you. Me, thanks for your guidance. Yeah, good to have you on. Angel, you're in Vancouver. Angel's in Vancouver. Carol, hello from BC. Dan, what if I tell you that we're all share the same soul? We contain it all. Yeah, that's what. That's essentially the oversoul, the full soul. It would be God. Would be the creator, the one, and then all our souls broke off in holographic form from there. A billion little pieces that reflect exactly the same qualities that original unified soul has. As such, we have the capacity to return to that holy state. And this, again, is the goal of our growth and evolution, is to become self-realized, self-actualized, our full potential realized and in active use each day. And I have to say, being here at Rythmia has been the closest thing to that for me. Working on my own practice on a daily basis, which I did here or anywhere, but really serving in an outward function, in the capacities that I do here, the breath work, the helping the guests, these Facebook Lives, all the back end stuff that I do, has really directed my life energy in a positive evolutionary direction. So I forget why I'm on that track, but let's just say that it's a good one. My necklaces are very helpful for guided mala necklaces. Oh yeah, for help for guided meditation mantra. You can use a mala. I don't have one with me at the moment, but beads, and so you can count your, do it all the way around the necklace, and then you've completed that meditation, for instance. Tammy, Deepak has some good guided meditations. All right. I almost lost my life in a motor accident. One should have killed me instantly. My life was spared that night. I have an intense synchronicities daily. I feel the universe spoils me. Yeah, well, that's, the bottom line is the universe spoils all of us. And I fully believe if we were forced to pay the debt of the karma that we have sown, the seeds of karma that we have sown, it's like being in credit card debt. You're never going to get out because the interest rate is so damn high. But the divine, through synchronicities and through divine interventions, takes a heck of a lot of our karma. And what I've learned and experienced in my monastic life and life beyond is the more devoted and dedicated we are to cultivating that relationship, that vertical relationship, the more of our karma gets swept under the rug, so to speak, the more we actually don't have to pay our own karmic debt. And that's a huge boon to anybody's life. I'm not the body, I'm the soul, eternal blessedness. Eternal, I say eternal blessedness. You could say internal blessedness. Angel, thank you. Rob, I'll be there Sunday. What should I do in the next few days to prepare my headspace? I say think positive thoughts, start eating clean food, try to get off any drugs, any caffeine, any alcohol. just think positive. Start really dwelling on what it is you're here for, what miracle it is you want to attain and know. Start cultivating the knowing that it is yours. Let go of any ideas of how it's going to happen, because it won't happen the way you think it is, but it will happen. And know that the more energetically you can just feel it with every cell of your body that it's going to happen, you will see how blessed this experience becomes. And introduce yourself to me, Rob, when you get here. Angel, have you ever seen a physical healing? Yes, we've seen plenty of physical healings. One of the most dramatic was a woman had a lump, cancerous lump in her breast that literally melted away in the course of one ceremony. And this is a story that I didn't attend, I didn't see myself, but I'd heard it told many times. I heard it told by Jerry. And then one time I was having to give that talk, and I was telling the story. Somebody in the audience raised their hand and says, yeah, that was my friend. I sent her here because of that. And I was like, okay, so, I can believe that one. Yeah, physical healings happen all the time. There's a woman who was just conversing with me today. I laughed because there was some depth of detail to the conversation, but she had a shoulder issue that she couldn't raise her shoulder as much, and she was showing me how she was definitely had full mobility of it. So physical healings happen all the time here. Allie, I received a physical healing while at Rythmia. So Allie, maybe you and Angel can talk if you want to go deeper into that. Love, Infinity, I was just there, and I have never felt more safe and loved in my life. I was even safe from my own thoughts. Everyone in Rythmia team has been amazing. Thank you so much for that, and I agree. Not trying to be egotistical, but let's just say the rest of the other team besides me is phenomenal and so caring and nurturing, and it's what you need when you're facing your deep, dark stuff, which is what people come here to do. It's not ayahuasca camp where you go and you paint and you draw and you laugh and you see funny colors and say, that was a fun experience, and ride unicorns through the universe. That may happen on one night, may not. You're here to do work. You're here to, if your life is not the way you want it to be, or your life is, but you need another boost to push it forward, this is the place for you. This is the place to make that happen. And I'm honored myself to work. I look out the window whenever I think of this, because I get the view of the Rythmia pool scene right out there. I'm honored to work here because my life's been about transformation for the last 20 some odd years. And as a breath worker for the last 12, I saw 5, 10, 12 people a week. Now I see 50, 60, 70, 80 people a week, and get to see that many people's lives being transformed. And it's causing a minor revolution right now. And as soon as a critical mass is hit, we will see massive changes in our world and the way things operate. As more people elevate their consciousness to understand what's truly real about life and start letting go of all the BS that we've been fed about what's important, the marriage, the 2 kids, the car, the garage, the good job, the picket fence and all that. And safety and security and family is important, but all of the consumer stuff that we've been fed just cause us to tack in the wrong direction. We're chasing a false dream, and when we get to the end of it, most people are disappointed. That's why you come here, you awaken to a new reality. You take the red pill, you know that now you're in the matrix. Fortunately, the matrix has a little bit more positive light to it than the movie Matrix. But you're here and you know what's important. You go back and you live your life from that perspective. You make much different choices, whether to buy the BMW or spend time with your children, where you might have gone for that car, no question. Now your relationships are more important, as an example. Can you tell me about your physical healing? Good. So get on that. Hello from Notre Dame, beautiful. Fighting Irish. That's not Indiana though. It's Notre Dame in New England, isn't it? Anyway, Love Infinity received physical healing, so check in with her. Blah blah blah. What page can I see videos from people that have been to Rythmia? You can go to this Facebook group, Facebook page, and look in events, not events, but videos, and you might see some testimonials there. You can see a lot on YouTube. The Rythmia YouTube page has a whole category of testimonials, so you can see those video testimonials. Go to TripAdvisor and you can see written testimonials up the wazoo. We are the #1 resort in the world on TripAdvisor because of the overwhelming amount of positive reviews that we've gotten. Because people's lives are changed. This is not an ordinary vacation. This is a life-changing experience. I got to, and this is, that fits well into this whole theme of death versus rebirth, because you're dying to the old you, which is pretty severe. When we consider this the pinnacle experience is really this death and rebirth, because it's the full enchilada. Your whole self is dying and renewing to your new self, where we talked about a little bit, you might get little deaths, little habits may go away from you, little perceptions about your life and all that, but you're still relatively the same person. You get that full death and rebirth, it's like a blank slate. You've got a whole new ticket, a whole new lease on life. Thanks, well said. Nope, Notre Dame is in South Bend. Okay, good. I'm not a big college sports buff, so. Hello from Montreal. Hey, Marie. So I'm coming to Montreal. Montreal's where I'm coming in 11 days. Say 10 days. Yes. Lisa, Hart, Shauna. All right, just joined. Phew. So we're coming. This is taking me a little bit longer this week as a result of all those questions. Massively good questions. So I often judge the quality of a topic on the amount of engagement that happens, and this one definitely spurned some conversation. I'd like you to, if you want to continue the conversation with me, go to my Facebook page, R Christian Minson, at the letter R and Christian Minson. Friend me. Give me a message that says why you're friending me, that you saw me on Facebook Live and you want to continue the conversation. Feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to give me any input on topics that would be important to you to hear about, like this one, ones that will actually stimulate you to want to ask questions and want to dive deeper. I want to do this for you more. Went to Rythmia and loved it. If you're thinking about going, book it. Good. Thank you, Jenny. Lisa, can't wait to get there. Beautiful on board. Is there any sort of basics to breath work? Is there general breathing exercise? Gord, I'm gonna challenge you to do a little research. Go on either the Facebook videos or the YouTube videos on the Rythmia page, respectively, and look for some of my titles there. Look for my videos, because I do give some videos on the basics of breath work, and you can start employing those right away. Okay, so that that's available to you. Let me see. We talked about this. We ultimately didn't get to how we deal with this, and it may be obvious because I've been talking about breath work in one way, shape, or form here, and that's what I do here, and that's what I think is one of our most profound processes for helping us move through this crap in our lives, to let go, to die to old habits and tendencies, and to be reborn into new avenues and new possibilities. And so employing breath work And if you're like Gord, if you don't know any breathwork techniques, I invite you as well to check out that stuff. In fact, if you go to my Facebook page, then you link over to my Facebook business page, which is called Inhale Life / Breath Flow / R Christian Minson. So you'll find it with my name again too. On the introductory video that you can click on right on the home page is an explanation, 20-minute explanation of how to do this breath work. So go ahead, check that out, and start practicing for 5 or 10 minutes each day. Some more comments. Thanks for your time. Great. Thanks, Gord. You've been really active, and I appreciate that. On, off, on, off. What do you mean by that, Clint? Here's a topic for you, Christian. Took the medicine a few months after my trip to really kick in. Why the delay? I know a few people that this happened to. Good topic. I'll see if I can think of if I can make that into a full-blown topic. But just know that life doesn't happen in a linear fashion. Okay, so going back to that farmer analogy, farmer plants a seed in what, May or June? Again, shows you how out of touch I am with our physical cycles here. But plants a seed, and then that seed actually comes to fruition in August, September. So you could say, why did it take so long? Because that's the amount of time it took. That's the cycle for this particular aspect of life. And sometimes we get what's called instant karma. We do something, we get immediate reaction. Other times we do something, we send those shockwaves out into the universe, and then they rebound and come back to us, and we see the results. So never feel like things aren't happening just because they don't happen immediately. In fact, I'd say less things happen immediately than most. It's more likely that things are going to be delayed. But if you notice yourself being more calm, being more centered, being happier, less reactive, more present in relationships, more willing to give the benefit of the doubt, all of these things are clues that you have done significant work in your life. In fact, all these things are really the true fruits of your labors, because this is your day-to-day life. It's not so much the amazing realizations that happen in the flash of a week here at Rythmia, but it's the day-to-day grind of your life that either is wearing you down or is polishing you smooth so that you can shine like a diamond or get ground into dust. So hopefully that analogy makes sense to you. Phasing in and out of existence with life and death. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good point. Try flipping a light switch as a meditation. Death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. Just start to, you get in that cycle. Like it's natural. It's going to go on and off, on and off. We're going to die. We're going to come back. We're going to die. We're going to come back. Thanks for the chats. Beautiful. Can you have marijuana in your system? You can. But we advise as much as you can. I forget when they tell you to start cutting off things, to eliminate meats and sugars and acids and alcohol and drugs. And of course, if you're on meds, you have to be off them for 30 days before you can come. And so weed is one of those things that ideally you should wean off of as soon as possible. That being said, if you didn't, or you're planning to come and you just realize this and all, come anyway. You could do all of that stuff and still go into the ayahuasca experience. It just has the possibility that it may be a little rougher for you because it's got to cleanse and purge all that stuff out of you. And that, sometimes isn't the nicest part of the experience, okay? Thank you for your wisdom today. Thanks, Rob. Gord, there's a diet that should be followed prior to taking plant medicine. Not good to, yeah, I think you're replying to Angel about the weed. Good. All right, folks. So I'll leave you with just thinking, what if you took this to heart and started viewing death and rebirth not as death of finality, but as just a phase in a cycle that starts another trend again, death and rebirth. Think about how much more relaxed you'd be about that inevitable condition that will eventually take us all. Imagine how much less worry you put into that. And as a result, how much more present and focused you can be in your life and really enjoying things that come to you and really knowing what matters most in your life. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I really enjoyed this session. I appreciate all the questions, all the comments. Keep them coming. Keep tuning in each week. I love being here with you as long as you want to show up. And until next time, namaste.